Okay, calling that a frame. Calling it. Buenas noches, internet friends. ¿Cómo estás? Espero que estés bien. I'm tired. It is a little bit past my bedtime, but as tradition dictates, it's a night shoot. You know, we have to wait till the house is asleep. I have a dream one day, and I hope that day is soon. I hope to leave my parents' house. And when I leave, something that I would love to do for myself and for my parents is to unhaul all of the crap that I have accumulated in 28 years of life. And you know, I gotta say, a majority of that crap is books. We got books from my tweens, my teens, my early 20s. The books I have in this room, it's not a library, it's an archive. I love the thought of preserving that history in the books I had read or used to love, but I don't love it enough to cart this archive with me across the country, perhaps across the world, to wherever I end up living. And so I've decided that I'm going to do the unhaul of a century, the unhaul of a lifetime. And you know, that kind of felt like classic booktube content. So what we're gonna do is that this is probably gonna take several days, but we're gonna start by going through section by section, every bookshelf, every nook, every cranny of books that I can find that I would feel guilty having my parents hoard for me while I go gallivanting across the world. So let's do that. And so we're going to start with the shelf above me. Normally this is a curated section of books, kind of like my recent faves. And it's not necessarily that right now. It's sort of just whatever books I pulled first and just stuck up there in height order. So all this to say, they're not all winners. They're probably not all going to pass the unhaul check. Let's just pull them down and see. So ready? Alright, so we're gonna do this, do that. Ugh. Let's begin. Okay, first, go here instead, an alternative travel list. This is a keep. This was also a recent gift from my friend. So, you know, it still has a lot of potential. An absolutely remarkable thing by Hank Green. Keep, it got me through my quarter-life crisis. Should I say something about it? It's about the internet and aliens. The end. Bird by Bird, some instructions on writing and on life. The 25th edition. Keep. If not only because I need something to force myself to write someday. My favorite poem is in this book, actually. My Sister to Serial Killer. I love a murderous woman, and everyone knows that. The Sculptor, one of my favorite graphic novels. It's about a young artist who says that he would give his life for his art, and he has the opportunity to put his money where his mouth is. Maybe you should talk to someone. A therapist memoir about her relationship with her own therapist. It's a very good book. No notes, 5 out of 5. However, I haven't picked this up since I perhaps first read it. This is a zine I bought that goes along with A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor by Hank Green. Keeping, obviously. Part of me kind of wants to unhaul the hardcover so that way I could get like a paperback version, because it's quite heavy, but keeping. Circe, I don't think I'm into it. I was thinking I would keep this book because it was a gift and I hadn't finished it, but then I saw that I had made it over 200 pages. Hold on, where's that bookmark? Yeah, I made it over 200 pages. I just feel like there's no plot. Feels more like a series of bottle episodes and not like one narrative that has like escalating stakes. Paper Girls, it's like Stranger Things, but with an all-girls cast. I like it. Keeping. We should hang out sometime. It's a goofy memoir about trying to find love with some disability representation. It's delightful, but I don't reach for this book anymore. Love and First Sight by the same author, a delightful YA contemporary romance with blind representation. It was a little cheesy and I enjoyed reading it, but not more than once. If you have like a teenager in your life, I would buy this. I would buy either of these actually. It's more like I'm 29. I don't need these anymore. Project Hail Mary is a yes. I love this book. I actually reread it recently. Stepsister. This book I feel like is very underrated. It's a Cinderella retelling from the ugly stepsister's perspective. I'm sure you gathered that from the title. It does what it says on the tin, but it's a fun time. I would also recommend this as a gift to a teenager in your life. But I'm unhauling it. The Power by Naomi Alderman. I love this book so much that I specifically bought a physical copy of it. So yeah, that's staying. Oh, sorry. I should tell you what it's about. It's an alternate world where genetic mutation gives women the physical ability to overpower men, and it follows how our society changes over the next 15 years because of that. Margaret Atwood loves it, by the way, so don't take my word for it. His Only Wife. I wish I could tell you what this is about. This was an impulse buy because the cover looked interesting, and I haven't read it yet, but I will hold on to the belief that I still will. Oh, and I forgot. This is the book I'm currently reading on my nightstand. It's a reread. It's called The Gigantic Beard That Was Evil. This is also a favorite graphic novel of mine. All right, so that's the first shelf done. Do we have it in us to do another? Do we want to move? Let's move. Okay, listen. I know we all wish that this framing was better. This is the world that we live in. So, hello, you know, like that aesthetic, like bookshelf I've been filming some of these videos in front of? It's not quite a shelf, it's a book cabinet. And you'll see later the more aesthetically pleasing bottom part of the cabinets where I film my booktube videos. But right now we're at the ugly top. Okay, so ready? Okay. All of our wrong todays. You don't need to read this book. It's an interesting premise. So the book takes place in 2016 in a utopian future where climate change is not a thing anymore and all of our problems have been solved. But alas, earwax, some ding-dong named Tom accidentally goes back in time, fucks up the course of history, and when he travels back to the present, he ends up in our present. He ends up in our 2016, which is apparently the darkest timeline. It was a great premise, but in my opinion, middlingly executed. My main problem was that I felt that the love interest could have done better, and I wish that she had realized that. Queen and Country Volume 1, never read it. I might read it. I'm not. Unhaul. Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson, in my opinion, the least interesting Brandon Sanderson novel I've ever picked up. That's a little harsh. It's a superhero novel. If that helps at all. It's a superhero novel, and in my opinion, the female characters weren't done well. That's what I remember from the first time I read it many, many moons ago. So Mindy Kaling's memoir. Bless you. Mindy Kaling's memoir is everyone hanging out without me and other concerns. I love Mindy Kaling, and I remember really liking this book. However, I haven't picked it up again since college, so that it has to go. One More Thing, Stories and Other Stories by BJ Novak. Of course, I would put Mindy Kaling next to her lover. I hate to say it, Mindy, but I love BJ's book more. There are stories in this book that I still think about, and I love his writing style for when I'm writing contemporary fiction. My favorite story in this collection is about a sex robot who falls in love. Where'd You Go, Bernadette? I feel like this is an impulse buy because the movie was coming out and I never read it. Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. It's kind of like A Fault in Our Stars, but worse. And hot takes, I like the movie more. Gone Girl? I really loved this book when I first read it, and I still love the movie to this day. However, I don't really feel the need to reread this again. The Disaster Artist. It's a memoir about the making of a movie called The Room, which is known widely as the worst movie ever made. The memoir itself is hilarious, and I think ponders a question that I really love, which is how far are you willing to go to pursue your creative dreams? And I loved this book when I was in my early 20s, and I feel a little bit more conflicted about it in my late 20s. However, it is really well written, and if you like movies, I have no idea why you haven't read this book yet. In terms of will I take it with me wherever I go in this world, I don't know. Let's put it in a keep pile but certainly it's on probation. These books, I don't remember what they're about, but they're by these like small authors who were like lovely people. They gave like a talk at a bookshop back when I was in college, and they were really funny guys. They were really delightful men, but their books are like about like detectives that are really macho and that's not really like the kind of stuff I've ever been into. Unhaul. Barbara the Slut and Other People. This is a short story anthology about just kind of like love. Just kind of like quirky, like not quite love stories. I remember liking it at the time I read this, but I haven't reached for it since I was like, say, 20 years old. Nimona is a keep. Is a no questions asked keep. Is a superhero story where the villain is the hero and his delightful sidekick Nimona really enjoys killing people, but in a quirky way. She's not really killing people, but she kind of likes the idea of murder. Like me! Seconds. This is a favorite graphic novel of mine, pondering different lives you could have lived and different choices you could have made, and what would you do if you had the opportunity to see how those lives turned out. It's by the author Scott Pilgrim, so it's the same vibe, same art style, I think. Cool. Hyperbole and a half. I loved this book when I was younger, and I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's great for like quarter-life crisis feels. That being said, I haven't read this since I was 20, and it's heavy. It's like I really like this book. I have a fond memory of it, but do I love it enough to carry it in a suitcase with me across the world? Yeah. Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. Oh, God, I love this book a lot. I still think of it fondly, even though I haven't read it in a long time. I still kind of want the ability to go back to it. However, part of me wonders if I should get rid of this hardcover and if I so choose, buy a paperback version. Because I like it, but not enough to cart a hardcover version of it around the world. It's about a college freshman starting her first year and is dealing with the anxiety of starting this new phase of her life, and is also moonlighting as a very famous fanfiction author. I'm gonna keep it, but I'm gonna think about getting a paperback version instead. That's a really interesting conundrum. To like something but not enough to carry it around the world in a hardcover edition, but a paperback, interesting, you know? Diary of a Teenage Girl. It's about a teen girl in the 70s who has sort of her sexual awakening when she starts sleeping with her mother's boyfriend. We don't approve of that in this household, but the story itself from her perspective is really interesting. I personally really love the movie. I don't know how I feel about this book, to be honest, because I think I only read it one time. See, this is like one of those like archives of Jay's history, but like I think that in my heart I like the movie more than I like the book. Oh, but the art style's kind of interesting. It's a maybe. It's a maybe. We're gonna maybe it. Through the Woods. Ooh, I like this book. It's a horror anthology. I am like obsessed with the art in this book. Like it's just so vivid and so colorful. It's just so short that like I feel like I don't get to settle into any one of the stories. It's like I love this. It's eerie. The art is beautiful, but I want more. And I don't know if it's worth carting around the world, but let's put it at a maybe. The paperbacks get an edge. Alright. Girl with All the Gifts, a zombie novel. I really loved it at the time. However, I feel like you could just simply watch The Last of Us. Uprooted by Naomi Novik. I like it, I don't love it. It's a Beauty and the Beast sort of retelling, but like with dark, like creepy woodland creature magic. And there's sorcerer who's like kind of crotchety, and I don't like him, but he's fine. Ooh, The School of Good and Evil. I like this a lot. I would buy this for a 12-year-old in my life, but I don't need it in mine. Game of Thrones. I never finished this. At some point, I just decided that watching the show was enough. But maybe I would change my mind. Keeping. Ender's Game. I read this when the movie was coming out, and I didn't read it again, so it's gone. Oh, I never read this fucking book about dragons. Ooh. I know where I got this book, but I never read it. One of my roommates just left it behind when we were in college, and I took it. The Red Queen, Sex and the Evolution of Human Nature. I don't feel the need to keep this in my possession. Why would I want that? This is Blood of Olympus by Rick Riordan. I have the full collection of Heroes of Olympus series, and I have 2 copies of Blood of Olympus. I don't remember how that happened. I think one of them was signed and given to me as a gift. This is not signed, so I think the other one's signed. So whatever copy is not signed, that's the one we're giving away. Sorry, we have a spare. Kill the spare. Eon, a young girl who disguised herself as a boy so she can ride dragons, I think. I remember starting it, but never finishing it when I was 17 years old. And I want in my heart to believe that I would finish it before I left this city, but I might not. And it is quite large for a paperback. We're gonna get rid of it. In our heart, we're gonna get rid of it. So let's just do that. So that feels like a good stopping point. We're gonna work our way down this cabinet. I'll probably check back with you tomorrow. Yeah, let's check in tomorrow. All right, good night. And we're back. It's day 2 of the Unhaul, and we have reached the popular YA series shelf, which is why they're stacked this way. Also to make room for these big books at the end. Okay, so we're gonna go over there to pull out the books, and we're gonna show you what we're working with, ready? So, first up, we have the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. This is truly my original copy of the Percy Jackson book. How old are you? Let's see, I was 12 when I started reading Percy Jackson. And I was 12 in the year 2007. 2007 to 2000. Like oh my God, you're 20 years old. Oh my God, this book is 20 years old. This book has been in my possession for 20 years. Isn't that wild? No, that can't be right. No, okay, you're not 20 years old because I'm not, I would have to be 30. Hold on. You're 14 years old. Oh, she's a teenager. So I have had the Percy Jackson series for a long time. I have all of the first series. Some of these are not the original books I bought. I think I lost them and then repurchased them. And weirdly, I have 2 copies of The Sea of Monsters. We also have the Demigod Files and the Demigod Diaries, which are the 2 companion books. And listen, I know I said that the 2 options were donate or carry across the world with me. And I 1000% am willing to carry all of these books around the world with me. But I am going to leave them here at my parents' house because my brother is 12 years old. Oh my God, he's Percy Jackson's age. Honestly, my parents should start reading these books to him now. But these are going to stay here for the next generation. Next up, we have The Red Pyramid, which was Rick Riordan's Egyptian series. I read the first book when it came out, but I wasn't compelled as much. I read The Red Pyramid and I just thought, I simply just want Percy. So I stopped reading the series after that. But I will leave this here for my brother. By the way, did you know that Rick Riordan's books all take place in the same universe? Like, Rick has constant crossovers between all of his book series. He brings Percy into every single one of them. I find it kind of amusing, but it also kind of feels like Rick is writing his own fan fiction. But anyway, this doesn't have a jacket anymore. So this is 2 books from the Berserk series by Michael Grant, my favorite childhood author, my favorite problematic king, Michael Grant, who writes like weird sci-fi books that don't make sense, basically. And these are donating. These are donations. I could tell you what these books are about, but I feel like all you need to know about anything Michael Grant has ever written is that it's just absolutely off the rails. Next up, we have... Oh my God, do I have 3 copies of the house? I have 3 copies of the House of Hades. So this is the Heroes of Olympus 5-ology. Obviously, those are staying here for the next generation. Remember how I said earlier that I had 2 copies of the House of Hades? I apparently have 3, because these are both the House of Hades. We have 3 copies of the House of Hades. This is Blood of Olympus by Rick Riordan. The Hidden Oracle, which is the first book in the Trials of Apollo series. I don't recall buying this book. I feel like my mom must have bought it. Because my parents also like the Rick Riordan universe books. I remember reading this and then like not feeling the need to continue. But we're gonna keep it here. These I bought, and these are heavy. If I really had to realistically say to myself, hey, what can you realistically fit in your suitcase and carry with you for the rest of your life? These would not make the cut. These are
dense, but I would keep them. I really thought I would take these with me to like wherever like I end up moving to, but these are too big. Basically, it's the Greek gods as written about by Percy Jackson and stories of the Greek heroes by Percy Jackson. Yeah, these are all staying here. I'm physically not strong enough to like carry these into my future home, wherever that may be. And then we got The Bane of My Existence, the Gone series by Michael Grant, my favorite childhood author. Here's the thing, I wouldn't recommend Michael Grant to anybody, but he was kind of like my hidden gem when I was a youth. I was the only one who knew about him, and his books had a chokehold on me. I wouldn't recommend his books now, but I still hold them near and dear to my heart. Not near and dear enough to cart them around the world, but I also don't know if they can stay here. Because here's the thing. One of my dreams on this channel is to one day do one of those like deep dives recaps about the Gone series. You know, kind of like Mike's Mike, but like for a book series no one cares about. But I don't need the physical books in order to do that. But I kind of like if there's ever like an archive of my childhood, I want it to be this one. You know, like these are the original books that I had. Like these books have been read time and time and time again. And also, like, I don't know who else would want them because they're like worn. This book is literally taped back together. You know, like I had to tape this book. I read it so often. Look, sometimes we have to make exceptions to our own rules, and this is my exception. Because one day I would love to tell you more about this crazy book series and the weird ways I fixated on it as a youth. And that day is not going to be soon, but perhaps it will happen one day. And when that happens, I would love to have the original books from that moment, you know? Here's the thing. I know in my heart, if I had to cart them around in a suitcase, they would absolutely be gone. I would put them in a recycling bin in 2 seconds. But we don't have to do that. I was about to say, like, these two I'm donating. But I was like, I mean, if we're keeping the Gone series books, I don't see why we can't keep these. It might be booktube content. I don't know. So that was not necessarily successful. Hold on. Scoop them in? Like, I don't see why. Oh. Yeah, perfect. So all we did was reorganize. We didn't really delete anything. But, you know, there's always going to be a shelf that's like that. Hey, listen. I didn't realize that this would be so hard. I really thought I was going to come in here and absolutely demolish my shelves. And look at me holding on to things for sentimental value. It's okay. I kind of knew that this shelf would be the hardest. All right, moving down. Okay, and here we are at the tweens and teen shelf. This part of the shelf that I normally film in front of, is truly the archive of my youth. And nothing is going to prove that better than just showing you what artifacts we have on this shelf. So ready? Oh my god, I totally forgot about this book. Cool Careers for Girls with Animals. The Secret Garden. I fucking hate The Secret Garden. I had to read this for like 3 different grades a summer reading. And God, I hated it every single time. I couldn't even tell you what it's about. It's about a fucking garden. Maniac McGee, Red Letter School. Island of Blue Dolphins, don't know anything about that. Hatchet, I remember this. It's just like a kid who is stranded and has to survive on his own until he's rescued. It is a lot thinner than I recall it being. I actually don't know what this book is. I imagine that I chose to read this. This sounds like the kind of thing I would have been into as a kid. Oh, Mouse Called a Wolf. I do remember this one. This is cute. It's about like a mouse who can sing, and he like befriends like the old lady in the house that he lives with. It's adorable. She like plays the piano and he sings. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. I fucking hate classics. The Giver, possibly the only school book I've ever liked. I was about to say keep, but I thought, will you read The Giver again? I don't know, maybe. War of the Worlds. I remember wanting to like this. Sometimes when I see like, ooh, there's action and stuff, it's never as much action as I wanted to have. Oh, I remember this book. See, this is the kind of shit that younger me wanted. Ooh, with The Two Princesses of Baymare. Girl, by Gail Carson Levine. Girl, I love Gail Carson Levine. If you don't know Gail, you do know
her most famous work, Ella Enchanted by Anne Hathaway. I'm just kidding. In every book that Gail writes, just absolutely knocks it out of the park with its nuanced female characters, but in like the most accessible format. And I don't know how she does it, but she does. And I remember reading this as a kid. It's about two sisters. One is super brave and the other is super cowardly. But when the brave sister falls ill, it is up to the cowardly sister to go on an adventure and save her. And it's so cute! Highly recommend this to anyone. Alas, I mean, I don't know, I might want to read it. It's a maybe. Secrets of My Hollywood Life by Jen Kalanita. I actually did a live reading vlog of this. The camera quality is not great, but I do think the video itself is quite fun. This book is outdated. It's not staying on my forever shelf, but you know, you served a purpose in 2008. And I thank you for serving that purpose. 13 Little Envelopes also has some reading vlogs up on the channel. I can't donate this book because I've actually ripped out pages of it. I was doing some blackout poetry. See? I did some blackout poetry. Nobody's Prize. This is the second book in a series. It has like kind of loose Greek mythology like inklings. Call it like fantasy light. This is the second book in the series. I'm pretty sure that I sold the first one, but I guess no one wanted the second. The Squad Killer Spirit. This is the second book in a series about cheerleader spies. And I wouldn't recommend it. It's quite outdated. The main character is like, I'm not like other girls. I don't like cheerleading, but you're a cheerleader. And she's not really a feminist because she puts down other women too. This is not the kind of rhetoric I want in the world. But alas, you know, it was 2008. This book doesn't have a cover on it, but it's about teen spies. Love Undercover Spies. Same thing. Also, just simply outdated. Just simply outdated. Cross My Heart and Hope to Spy by Allie Carter. Does anyone else remember the Gallagher Girls? The origin of Jay's teen spy phase was this series. I don't have the first book anymore, but I absolutely managed to sell it. There's simply no reason why it wouldn't be in my possession. I had the first 3 books of the series. First book was I Tell You I Love You, but then I'd have to kill you. Oh my god, I can see the cover in my brain. I'll put it up. It's about a girl who goes to spy school and like she feels like super invisible, you know, like all teen girls do. And then she finds that maybe she's not so invisible because she attracts the attention of an adorable himbo normal boy and just kind of like has a secret relationship with him. And it's adorable! Like, I gotta tell you, I'm not a romance person, but justice for Josh. If you know, you know. Like, let me tell you, if I see any Team Zax in this comment section, you can unsubscribe. I'm kidding, please don't do that. But just know, this is a Team Josh household. Oh my god, I'm gonna miss you. You were such a part of my life in my preteen experience. And what a time that we had together. I'm getting emotional. I didn't know I was gonna do that. Oh my god, I'm sorry. These books are just like they carried with me and I never really thought I would get rid of them. It's kind of like Andy and his toys, you know? They were just a part of him and like it's weird to think that they won't be anymore, but it's okay. You're going to either a new home or you're going to be recycled and given a new life. Oh my god. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Everything's fine. We're good. Geek Magnet. This is a really fun book for what it is, which is a book I read in the 7th grade. Top 8 by Katie Finn. Think MySpace era. Okay. And now we have some relics from truly Jay's 7th and 8th grade. The Bras and Broomstick series by Sarah Mlynowski. The chokehold that Sarah Mlynowski had on me as a youth. It's about like a teenage girl who finds out that her younger sister is a witch. Ooh, so good, so good. Read these books to death. Used and abused them. I'm surprised that they're still standing. There is a series. Me and my 2 close college friends did a book chat about these books, and you can still find them somewhere on the channel. C. Jane Wright, A Girl's Guide to Writing Chick Lit by Sarah Mlynowski. I don't know, I might keep it. Not that I write chick lit, but like she does have some good advice about like characters in here. I don't know. No, you're not keeping it, Jay. You're not keeping it. You don't need it. You have other books on writing. Oh my god, this is a click book. The Pretty Committee Strikes Back. Do you guys remember the click books? They were like poison for teenage girls. You know how like in Good Omens there's like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? I feel like there's a 5th horseman called the patriarchy. And he commissioned Lacey Harrison to write these books. I shouldn't be too mean to Lacey. Like we all exist in a patriarchy and we're all just trying to make a living. Oh, I don't remember this book. It's called My Worst Best Friend. I don't know what it's about. Yeah, no idea. And My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult. This was probably the first book that absolutely ripped tears from my body. I don't even know why. Like, this is absolutely not at all what Pastor was into. But she liked it, so interesting. And whoops, my phone literally has no more storage left. So, okay, we're gonna wrap up this section really quick. We're impressed with Pastor's range, but it's not staying with us. Okay, so that is the clearing of the shelf, and the only things that we're probably gonna keep from it is The Giver. Oop. The Giver and the Two Princesses of Baymare. Congratulations on surviving the Unhaul! That's it for tonight. We're gonna check back later to do the rest of the shelves. Alright, thank you, good night. Hey, we have an undeterminable amount of time before my parents come home, so we're making this snappy. Alright, moving on to the next shelf up. Let's move this out of the way. Ready, set, let's go from here. First up, Aragon. This book has been used and abused, and yet I don't have a singular opinion about Aragon. I will say my parents might reread this at some point, so we're going to keep it. Next we have my Avatar books. This is a companion book from when the show was still airing, and these are some comics from after the fact. We're donating this, we're keeping these. Skinned, which is about a girl who turns into a cyborg. Remember nothing about this book except vaguely liking it. Let's say I gave it a 3.5. To my knowledge, it's about a regular girl who becomes a cyborg and then has to adjust back to ordinary life while now dealing with the discrimination that comes with being a cyborg. And I don't know, maybe it takes like a YA chosen one turn. Ooh, Liar by Justine Larbalester. Girl, okay, so you think you're getting into a tale about like some girl who's a compulsive liar, but then halfway through the book, you are hit with werewolves. Forsaken. I vaguely remember disliking this and thinking it was like B tier Hunger Games. The Unraveling, 2 multiverses collide. Ooh, I didn't like it. The Forest of Hands and Teeth is actually quite a good book. I remember it fondly. I weirdly think it stands the test of time. Like if you saw this in a bookshop, I would recommend picking it up. You know, one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't continue the series, and I have no idea why. Someone, if you've read this, please tell me what happens. Or don't tell me what happens. Tell me if I should continue reading it. The Deadly Sister. The main character's sister is wanted for murder, but then you find out that the main character was the murderer all along. Infinity. This is also a book series that I don't know why I didn't continue it. The first book I really enjoyed. I think there was just something about the writing style I didn't love. But to this day, I regret not finishing the series. I really wish I had learned what happens in it. It's supernatural. Teenage boy gets roped into like the demon fighting underbelly of the city or whatever. We're still gonna unhaul it, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't rent it from the library in the future. White Cat, I think it's like about magicians. The Reformed Vampire Support Group, this was meant to be like the anti-Twilight, and even as a Twilight hater, as a tween, I didn't like this book. Lord Loss by Darren Shan, another book series that I regret not continuing. It's really like gory, it's a lot of demons. We're unhauling this, but I would be open to reading more of these in the future. And The Arms of Stone Angels, can you tell that Jay was going through a paranormal phase? One of Jay's like most significant phases from her youth was her exorcism phase, and this was like one of the books that caught strays along the way. Jay was unimpressed by this narrative even as a tween. She thought that the main character was too not like most girls' energy, which is, you know, a huge problem. And if a tween girl said, you know, like, I don't really vibe with your not like other girls' energy, you know that you flew too close to the sun with that one. Black Tattoo. I actually like this book like well through my teens. I read this multiple times. I have not picked it up since college, I believe, but I remember liking it enough that I would take this with me to my future home, if only to reread it one more time. Ghost Huntress, just like some teenage girl who hunts ghosts and falls in love. Sorry, I straight up ran out of space on my phone. Where was I? Another? I think this was an impulse buy back when I was in college, and I never read it, but I am willing to give it a shot, enough that I do kind of want to keep it. It's a keep. It's coming. It's coming across the country with us. It wouldn't make it across the world, but it would make it across the country. Interview with the Exorcist. When I was 15, I was writing this story about like demons, and I bought this as research, and I don't need it anymore. Death, the deluxe edition by Neil Gaiman. This was also impulse buy, and I want to say it's a graphic novel. I feel like we have to give it one try. You know, I feel like we do have to like cart it with us. It's a little heavy though, but I think it's coming. It's coming to our new location. And that's it. That is this shelf. Do we want to move on to this one, or do we want to like see where we are? You know what? Let's just keep going. Like, I'm already on a roll. I'm already in the groove. So let's just keep unhauling. Ready? Artemis Fowl. This is a book that my dad bought. Like, I didn't buy this. So sometimes your parents just put things in your room because you're not using it. And that's kind of how that came to be. Max by James Patterson. Ugh, what an era. That series went downhill starting with Max. When it started like naming the books after the characters, ugh, an absolute plummet. No, sorry. Crank? Does anyone remember this book? Remember like the poetry and like the really dark themes? Like, should we have been reading that as youth? You were a time in my life, and that time has passed, so we're getting rid of you. Ready Player One, I think I read this because the movie was coming out. No, I read this before the movie was a thing. I remember just like being meh about this book. There was one detail I liked about it, and of course they cut it from the fucking movie. 13 Reasons Why and The Future of Us by J. Asher. Do you all remember the J. Asher portion of our youth? 13 Reasons Why is a very depressing novel about a girl who commits suicide, leaving behind 13 voice recordings for the 13 people that led her to her suicide. Very heartbreaking, very depressing, but so digestible from a writing perspective, at least from what I remember as a kid. The Future of Us is about two teenagers in the 90s who, through some odd time-traveling computer, discover Facebook and can peek into the lives of their future selves through their Facebook updates. This was more fun and more delightful, and I remember really enjoying it. However, these are of its time, and it is time for them to go. Another staple from our youth. Do you all remember the What If books? It's like POV, you're a high school sophomore and you have to like make decisions about like what friend group are you gonna hang out with? Are you gonna do drugs and blah blah blah? I thought about doing like a reading vlog with these books, but I don't know if that thought will ever come to fruition. I think we're just gonna have to put that idea to rest and just get rid of these. And finally, the classics portion of the shelf. So first we got Jane Eyre, The Jungle. I remember liking this book. For a classic, I remember liking it. The Interpreter of Maladies. I would reread this book, but probably not soon. The Importance of Being Earnest. I actually remember kind of liking this one. I thought it was funny. Frankenstein, I never read it. My 7th grade teacher was giving away a couple of books, and this one looked the most interesting, but alas, never actually read it. I have SparkNotes Frankenstein, and the story of Frankenstein itself sounds very interesting. So I feel like I don't need to read this. Although, the book is shorter than I thought it was. It's a lot skinnier than I anticipated, but we're not going to read it. We don't want it. Tale of Two Cities, I hate this book. I didn't retain a single piece of information from this, to the point where first day of school came in and my English teacher writes Sydney Carter on the blackboard, and I whisper, "Who's Sydney Carter?" And my classmate said, "Jay, that's the main character." And I went, "Okay." And I went home and I SparkNotes the book so thoroughly in preparation for the quiz that I got a higher grade on that test than she did. I felt really bad. But our English teacher straight up took questions from the SparkNotes quiz, so that's not my fault. A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. It basically follows like the life of a young girl living in Brooklyn from her childhood through her adulthood. It's giving me Little Women vibes, and I would be curious as to how I would enjoy it now as an adult who has probably like lived a longer life than this main character. But I'm not not going to, so. Alright, and that is the end of that shelf, and I do not think we had a single survivor. I think that this has all been an unhaul. And look at me go. I told you that I was gonna sweep right through these shelves. I was absolutely gonna demolish them. I told you. Alright, I have to get back to doing life stuff, but when we return, we're gonna tackle this shelf right here, that shelf up there, and any other kind of like miscellaneous nooks and crannies around my home where there might be books that I own. Okay. And we're back, and my phone has been running out of space, so we're gonna make this snappy. Next shelf. So this next shelf that we're covering is going to be the YA fantasy, action adventure, classics from my youth tier. This has a lot of like Teen J's greatest hits. Oh, I forgot that was in here. Okay. Some of these things are just like things I truly forgot I owned. So this is a graphic novel that was given to me by my Taekwondo instructor's instructor, and I never read it. I'm sorry. It kind of looks interesting. Maybe I would like it. We'll think about it. Do we want it? No. Judith, you don't. But he wrote a message inside. But do you want it? Gifts are hard for me to let go of, so this is a keep. But it's on probation. If I don't get to it in a certain amount of time, it's simply going in a little library. Oh, I remember this. So one of the significant phases of my reading experience was my ninja phase. It was my exorcism phase and my ninja phase. And this is something that I think my parents gave me as a gift. I don't need it anymore. It's the history of the ninja. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I do No, you don't need it. So no. Silver Phoenix. I don't remember this book other than it was boring, and I also think this was the first time I read about sex in a book. I led the sheltered life, but it was boring. I couldn't tell you anything else about it. Blood Ninja, this was also a gift from my parents during my ninja phase, and I never read it. And we're just gonna let her go. More books from the ninja phase, that's going. You know what, I've decided, I hate to do it, but I've made a decision, I don't want it. I just know in my heart I'm not gonna read it, and if I do, I'm just gonna skim it to get rid of it faster. So no, I don't want it. I'll donate it, but I don't want it. I'm sorry. I haven't talked to that person who gave it to me in, like, let's say 10 years, so I think I'll be fine. Girl in the Arena. I have lukewarm feelings about this book. I'm certainly not gonna keep it. All right, girl, I have to tell you a story. I have to tell you a tale about Samurai Girl by Carrie Essie. Girl, the chokehold that this series had on my little teen self, indescribable. Basically about a girl who like lives out my YA fantasy of becoming a samurai. The book's comically paced, impractical plot at best. The series was published by Alloy Entertainment, and if any of y'all follow Jenny Nicholson, you will have watched her magnum opus that is The Vampire Diaries, and you will know that Alloy Entertainment is a book packaging company. So I guess they wanted a series about like a teen girl that becomes a samurai. I guess that they sensed me in the ether. They're like, we know one girl who will buy all of these books, and I did. They also made it into an ABC series starring Jamie Chung, and that was my introduction to Jamie Chung. Actually, this was my introduction to Jamie Chung. Like, imagine you're a little 12-year-old girl who gets a lot of positive feedback at her Taekwondo school, and she has internalized that to such a degree that she believes that she could wield a sword in real life. And she goes to Barnes & Nobles, and suddenly she's confronted with this cover. I stood no chance. This book series is awful. It's stupid. I also truly believe that this isn't the author's best showing of her work. I have a conspiracy theory that Carrie Essie is a pen name because I've tried to Google this author and nothing has come up. I just sense that like whoever wrote this book was on a tight deadline, and she did it for a paycheck, as we all do in any time in our lives. So I respect the hustle, and that's why I feel kind of free to viciously attack this book because I'm sure that like whoever wrote it would agree with me. We don't need these anymore. So it's time to say goodbye. Thank you for the purpose that you served in my life. I won't miss our time together because I was a mess when I was a teenager, but I will remember it fondly.
The Ugly series. I used to have the third book as well, but I think I sold it. These are of its time and they don't hold any like special place in my heart, so we're getting rid of them. LOL, the last thing I remember. This book is wild. Like, this teenage boy basically becomes Jack Bauer, and crazier still, this book is so boring. Like, his hero is Winston Churchill and he quotes Winston Churchill all the time. And I'm like, that's not the energy I want. So you're out of here. The Maze Runner, I remember really liking this book, but not enough to carry with me into my next life. I Am Number 4, another book that I really liked. I feel like I didn't love the writing style or the love story aspect of this book, which is what prevented me from reading the rest of the series. But part of me wonders what happened. Not enough to keep the first book for sentimental reasons, though. Graceling, another book I remember fondly, not enough to keep. I would recommend reading this book, though. It's about a world in which there are people who are blessed with a certain ability called a grace, and your grace could be anything. It could be cooking, it can be singing. But what happens when your grace is murdered? Dun dun dun. I liked it. It was a fantasy book that kind of like took directions I wasn't expecting. And I think it actually holds up to this day. I've actually seen like a couple booktubers still like talk about it, you know, even though it was published so long ago. So I would recommend it. I'm just not taking it with me. The Legend series by Marie Lu. I remember liking it to a degree. I liked the action. I thought the love story was fine. I really disliked the ending because first of all, it ends with the couple breaking up, which is sad, but I respect a bold choice. But then the author writes an epilogue where they get back together. What's the point? I know that shouldn't color my opinion of the series as a whole, but that's truly the only thing I remember. And I also think that's a shitty way to end your series. The False Prince. This is a trilogy and it's quite fun. I remember really enjoying it. I don't have the third book anymore. I do remember selling that when I was like 18. It's really funny. It's about an orphan who is roped into a plot to disguise himself as the lost prince of the country that he lives in. And the main character, Sage, is so funny, so quick-witted. I love him. He makes this book so enjoyable. I really like the first book. The other two books I don't remember at all, but I do remember Sage's humor being toned down, which is a shame because that was the best part. My thing is that I would recommend this book to everyone. I would recommend this book up and down, left and right, to the high heavens, but I'm not going to take it with me. Mostly because I feel like it would be just so easy to borrow from a library or just sit in a bookshop and read it. So it's not coming with me, but hopefully you will find a better home. Oh, we're almost done. All right. Ready? Okay, so Hunger Games has stood the test of time. We are in a Hunger Games renaissance and I am loving every minute of it. It is a shame to me that I sold the other two books in the series because I used to have the whole trilogy and God, these finds together look so good. But when I was a teenager, I did not appreciate the second and third books for the masterpieces that they were. So I only have the first one and I don't love the first one on its own enough to carry it with me into my next life. And it's also just so widely available that I could literally rent it from a library at any moment in time. So we're getting rid of you, but it's not for a lack of love. We still love you. We probably love you the most out of all the books on our shelves. All right, if the camera moved, I apologize. My phone ran out of space again. Good thing though, because I'm about to go on a rant. So the last series of books that I have for you that we are absolutely unhauling are the Divergent, oh, these covers are so glossy though. The Divergent trilogy by Veronica Ross. Stay strong, Jay. I gotta tell you, the one book on this shelf that truly encapsulates who Teenage Jay was is Divergent by Veronica Ross. When I read Divergent, I don't know what came over me, but it changed my life. I gotta tell you, I had big Not Like Other Girls energy, but like Not Like Other Girls, subheader, I want to be the main character of a YA dystopian novel. And Tris was my girl. It's my most embarrassing secret. I related to Tris like so deep in my core. Like Tris made me believe that I could be the main character of my own YA dystopian novel. She made me believe that like I could be physically strong and brave and like wield a gun. and like take on bullies twice my size. I know, crazy. Truly, what a time to be alive for teenager me. That being said, you were for a moment in time, and that moment has passed. I'm gonna get emotional again. When I look straight into the book's eyes, I get really emotional. When I remember that there's a camera, I like steal myself. Well, I should talk to all three of the books. Hold on. God, you're so pretty. Look at your pretty covers. Okay. You were from a moment in time. You gave me such joy during my teen years, and I'm sorry that those years are over. But I hope that you find another home and another teenage girl that you will make very happy, even though you are a kind of outdated version of feminism that I don't necessarily want to pass on in the world. Maybe you'll be fine. But maybe for the most part, you're fine. If you're still in circulation in Barnes & Nobles, then I think it's okay to pass you on to the next generation. Or maybe there's a collector out there who wants to remember her youth fondly, and you are exactly what she's looking for. Okay, I'm done. I had my moment and I'm done. All right, so out of all those books, once again, we have a ruthless unhaul. No survivors. No one has passed. No one is moving on with me to my second life. And I don't want that to be a marker against some of the books I mentioned. Some of them, like The False Prince, I would die for The False Prince. Like, I would die on that recommendation. Some of the others are duds. And they're going to be recycled. But okay, we got 2 more, like, miscellaneous shelves. And then I think that's it. I think that's all the books. All right. Let's go! So this is hopefully the last shelf that we have to do. And as you can see, it's very messy, as is this angle. So we're focusing on this shelf, this shelf. This is just kind of like miscellaneous stuff that I picked up on my travel, so don't worry about it. But let's start Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. I don't even know when I bought this or if I bought this, but I have a feeling that no one in this house wants it, so it's donating. I bought this. This is the wide window. I had a series of unfortunate events phase and I found this at a Goodwill and I bought it. It's not my favorite book in the series, but I do like the pictures, so I will take it with me to my next life. This is a Harry Potter book. It belongs in my box collection. I have to put that back. I don't like to talk about Harry Potter on the channel because I don't want to publicly support J.K. Rowling. Did you know that she got sued, by the way? But those books were a deep part of my childhood, so I still have my own relationship with them. But I try not to promote authors that I know have hateful rhetoric. Inkheart, I think this was a gift, and I never read it, and I never will. Go Us Alice. I feel like a friend left this at my house one day. I guess she didn't want it, and neither do I. This is my family's copy of The Goblet of Fire. We have multiple copies of the Harry Potter books littered around our house. I don't know what this is. It wasn't mine though, but we'll keep it. Captain Underpants. Did anyone else read Captain Underpants as a kid? I love Captain Underpants. Not enough to take with me. Harry Potter. Oh, this is a little zine that my friend gave me in Seattle, and I still have it. Oh my god, there's another copy of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone in this house. All my friends are dead. I impulse bought this probably when I was a teenager, and I don't want it anymore. Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets, Lord of the Rings. This is my parents' copy. I don't know how it found its way into my room. How to Build a Girl. My roommate left this behind when we moved out of our apartment, and I took it thinking I was going to read it, and then I didn't. Memoirs of a Geisha. I got this at a library sale for $0.25, and I didn't read it. So I guess it's going back to the library. Alright, so to recap, the only things that have survived, the Unhaul are the books that I believe belong to my parents, and the only book that has survived that belongs to me is this one. Congratulations! Alright, and moving on to the top. Rapido, Jay, Rapido. Okay, the Bro Code. This is a gift from my parents. In high school, we had a How I Met Your Mother phase. Another book that my roommate left behind. Never read it. Aww. This was a gift, and I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it. Huh. 101 Secrets for Your 20s. My parents got me this, and I never read it. And I might. I'm gonna keep it for now. I still have a year of my 20s left. Lucy in the Sky. I don't know how this ended up in my house. I don't know. Who left this here? Oh, another Barney Stinson book. The Teen Catholic Bible. I feel kind of conflicted because it kind of feels wrong to like get rid of a Bible. So I'll leave it in my parents' house. How to Raise Your Self-Esteem. That was a recommendation from my therapist. I wanted her to think that she was making progress with me, so I bought it. The Hobbit, I got this from my dad. He didn't read it. Aww. Do you remember It's Happy Bunny? I love these books in the 7th grade. So cute. Alas, boys are stupid, throw rocks at them. This feels squishy, like a baby toy. I was absolutely not a baby when I bought it. Aww. I think my mom got me this journal, but I wasn't really into this. This isn't really my style. Don't tell her, but we're getting rid of it. Stephen King on writing. Yeah, we're gonna keep that. Aww, I remember this book. This is so cute. I don't want to get rid of it because it's in such like good shape, you know. But I'm not gonna take it with me. I'm gonna leave it here. Listen, I know I said at the beginning of this video that we're gonna be ruthless and there are only 2 options, but come on. Come on. It's hardly like taking up space in my parents' house. And they might like it. They like dogs. I remember this. I read this craft book more than I did anything in this craft book. I just loved looking at the pictures and imagine doing the crafts. But you know, you've also served your purpose in my life. Ooh, that was a good one. Oh, we used to have a Shetland sheepdog. We don't need this book, but also I absolutely wasn't the one who purchased it. So I don't think it's my call to get rid of it. This is mine. This was just like a bunch of quizzes. You know, like classic preteen girl shit. I did not know that Losari wrote a book called Sun. I didn't know that The Giver was a trilogy. Oh, I want to read it. I want to read it, but I'm like, but you don't need a hardcover book in order to do so. So you're going to be donated, but I will add you to my TBR. The duality of life. All right. So I think that's it. So that is it. Like that, those are the bookshelves. That is all the shelves in the book cabinet. And drum roll please for the survivors. We have the Zine Duck Lessons on Writing by Stephen King, Secrets for Your 20s, and 642 Things to Write About. A journal. Congratulations! All right, give me 1 second to just take a look around the room, around the house, see if I missed anything, and then we're gonna wrap it up. All right, here we are, back at the beginning. Are you tired? I'm tired. It's been like a day or 2 since we filmed that last clip, and definitely many days more since we started this unhauling process. I feel like 1,000,000 pounds lighter, probably because that's the amount of pounds of books I've unhauled. I don't know what the final count is. Editing Jay, if you feel so compelled to do so, please put them on the screen. I'm curious also how many books we've unhauled. It's definitely more than 100. I feel kind of nostalgic and sad that these books are leaving my possession. Even if I haven't touched them and they've just been gathering dust, you know, like they've lived in this home for so long. Like I almost can't imagine what life looks like without them. But it's okay. We just have to remember that they're no good to us on these shelves. Also, there is one book that I have to show you that I never really found the time to mention during the unhaul process. And I know at least one person is worried about it, so I'm gonna bring it up here. It is my hardcover copy of The Family Fang by Kevin Wilson. This is a Christmas gift from Rosica from the Midnight Reader, my best friend on BookTube. Don't worry, Rosica, she's coming. She's coming with us wherever we go in this world. How could you doubt us? I actually have 2 copies of The Family Fang. I have this one and my original copy. It's somewhere like lost in the midst of books on my floor, but that's coming too. It just never really came up in the unhaul process because, I don't know, it just wasn't on any of the shelves. I just didn't feel bothered to like mention it, so I never found the time to. But don't worry, Rosica, she's coming. They're both coming. I can't separate them. The Family Fang is my kind of like legacy favorite book. I talked about it endlessly on this channel, so I don't really feel like doing that again. But in case you're new, it's a story about a dysfunctional family of artists. In the book itself ponders a lot of questions regarding how far would you go for your art and how far should you go for your art, especially when you have a family. Yeah, I love this book. This is coming with me on my forever shelf. It holds a special place in my heart, and it always will. So that is it. That is truly the end of this unhaul. What a time it has been. What a milestone to be releasing these books that
have been with me for so long that I almost imagine dying with. Yeah, it's kind of a big moment to say goodbye to those books and say goodbye to that phase of my life. But you know, I know that we are making room for a bright future that will not be void of books. Okay, was that a good ending? I hope so. Alright, I'm gonna go before my phone runs out of space. Thank you for watching. As always, I really appreciate you being here, and I'll see you in the next video.